Okay, everyone, thank you for coming to the interview today. I'm so excited for our guest for today's interview. She is a professional women's soccer player, currently playing on she's a forward for the Washington Spirit of the National Women's Soccer League. She's also played for the United States Women's National Soccer Team, which is so crazy and super exciting. I'm still wondering how I am able to, why she agreed to do this interview with me, because she is kind of a big deal. I think we have a lot that we can learn from her in the way of success, in the way of things that she has gained along the way to get to where she is. And so please welcome Ashley Hatch to the interview today. Woo! Ashley Hatch. We don't have a studio audience, so if there was, there'd be lots of clapping.
I'm sure there will be.
So super excited to have you on. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and thank you again for being willing to be on the interview today. Where I'm planning on going with this interview is I want to ask kind of what's going on now currently with the Washington Spirit, which is you're on, and what you're kind of doing day to day. And then I want to kind of go back to the very beginning. So we'll kind of take a walk down memory lane and kind of your journey to where you are currently. I think that'd be really fun and informative for all of us. And then on my Instagram, which perhaps you saw, I asked anyone if they had any questions to go ahead and DM me to ask you. And we have about 4 questions that people sent in that we will ask you as well.
Nice. Sounds good.
Okay. So here we go. Let's dive in. So first, kind of what's going on right now in your current situation. We know we just got out of the pandemic. We're not completely out of it yet, but it's certainly not when it first started. So what's kind of the schedule right now for you in the way of professional women's soccer?
So we are fortunate enough to have a full season this year. So we are about 5 or 6 games in right now. Just got back from Chicago last night. We had a draw, 1-1 draw. And yeah, we're kind of full go on our season. So traveling pretty much every other weekend. We leave this Saturday or this Friday for a game on Saturday in Kansas City. So yeah, just practicing every day, getting ready for games. Husband is working, so it's starting to feel a little bit more like normal life.
Yeah,
So that's super exciting, and I'm super grateful for that. So we're just super busy.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I know you've been married now for about 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so what is that? Obviously, before soccer has been a big part of your life before you got married, but what is it now? What's it like being married now and still doing what you're doing in the way of soccer?
It's great. Honestly, I tell Jeff this all the time. I don't think I would still be playing soccer if I wasn't married to him.
Wow.
I think being able to have a companion go through this journey with me, there's been times where, he's believed in me more than I've believed in myself, or he's encouraged me or just helped me get through like rough days, rough times. And it's also, I don't know, amazing to have someone who is so on board with my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. Like, I think that was something that while we were dating, like, it was very obvious to me that if I did decide to pursue Jeff or to marry Jeff, that he wasn't someone that was going to make me stop working for my goals and my dreams, and he's only helped me. So I feel super grateful to have him in my life. And yeah, I don't know what my soccer career would look like if I hadn't met him when I did.
That's really neat, especially when you brought up that you don't know if you'd be doing soccer if you weren't married to him. Because I think sometimes when it comes to marriage and stuff, sometimes we feel like we have to choose between our goals and dreams or marriage. But the fact that you brought up that marriage has actually helped you with that, I think is kind of cool for everyone to hear when it comes to marriage and stuff like that. That's really neat. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
thanks.
Um, okay, so let's kind of. I wasn't going to go to this question yet, but I feel like with what you talked about, it might be a nice segue into this question, and then we'll go kind of to the beginning. Someone had a question, and they said to me, A question for you. They said, how do you find motivation to work towards your goals? You brought up some of that. I think Jeff is part of that motivation.
Mhm.
So let me ask you that question first, and then she has a follow up. So, how would you say, how do you find motivation to work towards your different goals?
That's a really good question. I feel like in different stages of my life, I've had different motivations. So if I think back to the very beginning of when Bree and I started playing soccer, um, I don't know, I started at age 8, she started a little bit younger. Like our motivations were always to get to that next level, to go from playing, club soccer or rec soccer to get good enough to be able to play competitive soccer and go from competitive soccer to high school, like make the high school varsity team, and then playing in high school, getting good enough so that we could play in college. And then it's just like, so there's that kind of motivation of just trying to get to that next level and be good enough. And then I feel like this is my 5th season as a pro. So as a pro, just I don't know, like my biggest motivation is just to reach like my full potential. I feel like that's something that motivates a lot of us in all aspects of life. But knowing that there's more room for improvement, like it excites me. And so it's definitely not easy. And there's definitely days where I'd much rather go on a cruise with my husband than, spend the whole off season on a strict, workout regimen. But yeah, just the excitement of, trying to get better each and every day and reaching that full potential is something that really motivates me and helps me get through the hard times when I really don't feel like, pushing myself. So,
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is such a cool motivation. It's almost sounds like you're just in competition with yourself and you're trying to see, can I reach the next level? Can I get better? It's like you reach one spot and then you're like, wait a second, now that I got here, is there even further that I can go? And I think that is exciting to contemplate and try to shoot for. That's really neat.
mhm.
Have you ever experienced burnout, in the midst of this, pursuing soccer, because, I've thought about that for anyone that's, has a dream or going towards something. As much as I like, I enjoy soccer as well, but for me, it's like guitar. As much as I enjoy guitar and playing it, there are sometimes where I'm like, okay, I think I want to break for maybe a little bit or a week, It's like, if it's all that, sometimes it's like, life loses its richness and its purpose and meaning sometimes. So, um, yeah. Have you ever experienced burnout yourself?
Yeah, I definitely would say I've experienced it. I think growing up, my dad did a very good job of teaching us the value of working hard, but also playing hard and enjoying those moments when you're not having to work or practice or whatever it is. Um, but I would say there was one time I think it was my freshman year of high school, I was doing pretty much everything. Like I was running cross country in the morning. I had 5:30 practice. I had a gym class, like a weightlifting class, second hour. I also had A hour, which was a class at 6:30. So I had cross country at 5:30, A hour Spanish at 6:30, and then a normal class, and then a gym class. And then after that, I was driving an hour to Scottsdale for club soccer practice. And then on the weekends, I had a cross country meet. And then after my cross country meet of running 3 miles, I would go play in a soccer game. And then I also did that. I did high school soccer and high school track that year. So like it was just a ton. And so I remember my sophomore year, I was like, okay, I can't do all of this. And so I decided not to run cross country and I didn't run track and I just did soccer. And I feel like that was a good like kind of break for me because I feel like I pushed my body mentally and physically a little bit too hard. But it was cool because like I knew that I could handle that. Like I knew I could do it, but I was like, all right, I need a little bit of a break. But soccer was, number one on my list from doing all those things. So I stayed playing soccer. And then the next 2 years, I did soccer and track. And so I was able to like balance that out. But once I started playing professionally, you learn very quickly like the importance of your off days. So we have a periodization like practice schedule slash loading that is very intentional about like how hard we work at practice, how many like sprints we're putting in at practice. Like we wear GPS trackers and they basically tell you all your data from the week.
Wow.
And so our practices are very intentional, and like our off days have to be very intentional as well. So like being smart about what we're doing on our off days. And I think that really, like learning that as I've been a pro has really helped me so I don't reach the point where I'm like I'm burnt out. Obviously, like once the season's over, it's nice to have a week or two break just to spend time with family and not think about soccer for a little bit. But I think those breaks and learning how to, I don't know, learning about yourself and learning how to take that off time at the right time is really important in preventing like a burnout slash blowout where you're just like, I don't want to do it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think learning that and learning that about myself has really helped me, because when I do take those breaks, like sometimes I'm like, all right, 2 days is too long. Like, let's get back at it, you know? So I feel like that's really helped me not burn out up to this point.
Yeah, that is so interesting because when you think about, you don't always think about the off days as someone that plays sports sometimes. You just kind of think of the games and then when you have practice, but you never think of how what you do outside of practice is important to the game.
Mhm.
And I think that's an important part that at least I got from what you said about not having burnout. And then, of course, too, recognizing within yourself when you feel like the burnout is coming and then taking actions to try to overcome that. And I think it's
Mhm.
cool that you realize that you could mentally and emotionally take as much as you were giving yourself at that one period of time, just so you
Mhm.
knew, like, okay, I can handle this, which is a cool thing to know because that is hard to be able to juggle all that. But then
Yeah.
to be able to realize that and then change it up. Okay, let's go back to so you brought up when you were younger. So was soccer the only sport that you played as a young player, or what? When did sports enter your life?
Um, so sports have been a part of my life for a very long time. So my mom, I think, put Brie and I in dance first, but we both just didn't respond well to it. I think it was just maybe our attention span, but
Your soccer
um,
is a dance though, so that's a good
yeah, that's true. Maybe that really did help. I'll have to tell my mom. Thanks. Um, but no, I started playing t-ball like I don't know, I like super young. Like I was so young that like I had to play with the boys because the girls like didn't have an old or young enough age group for me. So I started super young. My dad put Bree and I, like all of us kids, in basically any sport that was available. So he wanted us, like his perspective was just try everything so you can actually figure out what you truly like. And so I really appreciated that. And I liked a lot of things. I liked running, I liked cross country, I liked track, really liked t-ball, softball for a long time, tried basketball. What else? I tried tennis. I think tennis was the first sport after t-ball. So I really like soccer was like the third or fourth sport I had tried. And I only tried it because a lot of my friends on my softball team like were also playing on a soccer team, and they were like, come, you're pretty fast, like come play with us. And so I started playing when I was 8. And at first I really didn't like it because I thought that it was just like you could go anywhere on the field. But since I started at age 8, it was like, no, there's positions, like you have to stay on this side of the field. I was so confused. I was like, no, you just follow the ball. Like, so I got yelled at a ton. And I remember my first day of practice, I came home and I was like, Dad, I don't want to play this. And he's like, too late. We already paid for it. So yeah, so that's when it started, and it just, really progressed from there, and it moved to the top of my list pretty quickly.
That's awesome. And so what age was there a point when you decided to just when was kind of the turning point when you're like, okay, I like soccer the most, therefore I'm just going to stick with it? Because I think as young people sometimes we play a lot of sports and then we kind of just still dabble in everything just kind of for fun. But at a young age, did you take soccer extremely serious, like I'm going to make this a career at a young age, or when was that point when you were like, I want to stick to soccer?
Um, I would say it was pretty gradual for me. Like it was always like another sport and soccer, this
Mm,
sport and soccer.
wow.
So like soccer was always like a constant in my life. I think like seventh, eighth grade, it started becoming like a lot more serious. And then in high school, I was like, soccer is like gonna be my, main sport. But I decided to do track like as well because I thought that it would also help me on the soccer field with like my speed. And it was just also a good change up. It was a good cross training. It was a good social sport. So I was able to, still like have fun, make other friends in high school. But soccer was always at the top of the list in high school for sure.
That's awesome. So something more gradual, and then as you took it more serious, did you start realizing like, hey, maybe I want to be a professional soccer player, or was it always just kind of the mindset of how can I keep getting better, and if soccer ends up happening, I'll do it. You know.
I would say it was the latter. Like I feel like I never really like thought about professional soccer because I mean women's professional soccer wasn't as big when I was growing up. Like it was the US women's national team, which I had no idea like how you would make that team, but like
Right.
it was always like I wanted, be good enough for that team. And so in high school it was kind of like I want to play in college. Like I was like, I'm not going to college unless I can play soccer. So that was kind of like the goal. It was just college soccer. And then I think as I got into college soccer, as I went through those years, then professional soccer started to become more of a reality.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And before we talk about BYU and the scholarship you received to there, um, I think a lot of people when they see their favorite athlete or someone that's has some other kind of gift or talent that they like really admire, or a movie director or whatever it is, we see the fruits of what they've done. You know, um, scholarships or made it to the pros and stuff like that. But I know there's a lot of like behind the scenes things that happen. As far as like being on club soccer teams. That full day that you talked about, and after you were still dead, you had to like drive super far to do club soccer. So what kind of things did it take all the way up till BYU? What kind of things were you involved in that led to that BYU scholarship, you feel like?
Um, I mean, I feel like it took a lot of discipline when it came to, the like rigorous like club soccer schedule, but like even on top of that, like my sister and I were always putting in hours and hours of extra soccer, whether it was just like practicing across the street at the park with like just ourselves or finding boys to play against, whatever it was, like we did it all.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed doing it, but there was also some times where like either I was dragging her out of bed or most of the time it was her dragging me out of bed, like early in the morning, Arizona heat. Like if you don't do it like 6 a.m., then it's too hot, you're gonna fry, or you have to wait till like 10 at night to do it. But then we like would have club soccer early in the morning or whatever. So our lives like pretty much revolved around soccer, and a lot of people, I think it was frowned upon sometimes by a lot of people because there's like these kids don't have a life, but like we loved it and we learned so many lessons. And I think my sister and I and our family, we all grew like a lot closer because of it. Like I think it was a huge blessing, but a lot of people on the outside thought that, it was forced upon by our parents or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so spectacular is how it was a blessing to your family, but also how much you guys just you did it out of just enjoyment. Yeah, there were times when it was hard, but I think a lot of it was just the fun of it. Like how many, what new tricks can I learn? How can I get better at shooting or passing? And when you're playing against, other, like boys or people older your age or whatever, and you're learning to be able to score on them, I bet that builds a lot of confidence and makes you feel good. You're like, I kind of like soccer. This is fun to be able to, look at this grown man. I'm just going to go ahead and score on him. So, yeah, that's really cool. And I think that is an important part for just success or really anything in life. I feel like when you enjoy something, you naturally just get better at it because
Yeah.
it's not something that's, seen as boring or something that you're obligated to do.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, cool. It seemed that mindset has seemed to work out well for you. So there's no refuting that, right? Um, okay, so let's talk about BYU. So you got to bring us back to the day when you knew that you were um, that you had received your scholarship. So I imagine there was probably scouts or people that were talking about you or something, and then they kind of watched you, and then BYU was like, yes, we've seen enough of Ashley Hatch. She keeps scoring and doing all the right things. We want to have her on it. So yeah, walk us through that process, and then specifically back to the day when you got it and what that was like for your, not only you but probably for your sister, your all of your siblings and your family.
Yeah, it was quite the process. I was the first in my family, so we really had no idea like how it worked, which I'm sure is the case for a lot of people. But I went to my first ever BYU like summer soccer camp the summer before my freshman year of high school. And that was kind of the first introduction of BYU soccer. I mean, I watched them on TV, but I had never really gone to any of their games or anything or been to a soccer camp before. I've heard a lot of good things from other friends who went to soccer camps. And I knew it was a huge recruiting place for them. So I was super excited, but also super kind of like naive, didn't really know how, it worked. But I knew that they were interested when I had gotten moved from my age group up to the higher age group. So I think they had like a freshman only class or incoming freshman only class. So like
Hmm.
eighth graders. But then I had gotten moved up into like the sophomore and up um age group. So I figured I was like, oh, like they must have like seen me do something good or something. And I did really well throughout the camp and like had a blast. It was my first time like playing against girls like 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of where it started. And then throughout my 4 years of high school, I would just like anyone wanting to go to any college, I would email a bunch of coaches letting them know like when and where my games were. Like the Vegas College Showcase, I remember like not specifically just to watch me, but there was probably like anywhere from 8 to 10 coaches at each of our games, just sitting there with clipboards, like watching
Wow.
our game.
Wow.
And it's kind of nerve wracking as a, 14 to 18-year old, like having coaches there watch you and judge your performance. But I don't know, I did well. I feel like I thrived in the pressure and yeah, so every year I went to the BYU soccer camp, and then the summer after my sophomore year, so going into my junior year, I met with Jen after the soccer camp. She asked if I could meet with her and the other coaches and if I could bring my dad with me. And I was like, I was super nervous because, like, in my opinion, I thought,
Jen is the head coach for
yeah,
BYU.
Jen Rockwood's the head coach. Yeah. So I was super nervous because I thought, like, according to my own standards, I thought I had a terrible camp. Like, I thought I didn't play well. So I thought she was going to tell me, like, we're not interested, like, maybe try looking somewhere else. And to make matters worse, like, we were waiting outside. So there's like a staircase up to her office, and we were waiting below the stairs.
Hmm.
And to make things worse, like some girl came out of her office crying with her mom. And I was like, that's gonna be me. I was like, I'm next. I was like, let's like just hold it together, don't cry. If she says that, like I was just like
Oh,
kind of preparing myself.
yeah.
But luckily it did not go that way. And we sat down and she said a lot of good things. And she basically, I honestly can't remember anything, but like, we'd like you to play here. Would you accept, like, would you accept, a verbal, like, will you give us a verbal commitment? And I kind of like looked at my dad and looked at her,
Right.
and he was just like,
You're like, he's my agent.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yes, like, yes, like I was so excited.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
amazing.
we had to drive back to Arizona after that. So the whole car ride home, I remember just like texting all my friends and family. And I was on cloud nine for sure.
Oh, that is so, so cool. Um, those kind of moments, it was kind of a turning point because I feel like, maybe had it not been BYU, there may have been another. team that you could have been on and made some progress. But how cool to be able to have gone to those camps, and then it ended up working out that you were able to play for BYU, and not only just play, but they given you a scholarship so you can get through school and then focus on soccer. I bet that was super helpful that way. Super neat. Super cool. Okay, so I did some more research on you when it came to BYU. And it looked like as a freshman, there was 21 games, and you started all 21 games, scored 6 goals, and provided 7 assists. Do you remember your first goal on the BYU soccer team? Or is that too far back?
No, I do. I think I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't remember my first like actual like game goal, because my first ever goal was against the Haitian national team. We played them in preseason.
Cool.
And that was the first game I ever like wore the BYU jersey. First game first game I ever scored. So yeah, I remember that goal like it was yesterday, but I couldn't tell you any of the other goals.
That's awesome though. I bet, because I feel like the first goal on any team, probably even when you've gone to your different professional teams that you've been on now, is it kind of just helps instill that belief in you again that you could play soccer and that you can score goals,
Yeah,
because
totally.
you can, but it's like this mental, like, okay, I know I could do it, but I can't, can I, or so
Yeah.
I'm glad you scored that first preseason goal and that you have continued to score since then. So very good. Okay. I wanted to talk about a specific, your junior year. In 2015, you suffered an injury, right? As a BYU soccer player. And I can only imagine that was probably super hard. Junior year, you're probably starting to get more comfortable with the team, starting to kind of find your way in there. Now that you're, junior, senior year, I feel like are maybe some of the most, more comfortable for you as a player on the team. But I feel like those hard times can be really defining moments. Again, this is kind of the behind the scenes where it's like you see someone, rise and do really well on things, but they're human and they're having, challenges themselves in, many different aspects of their lives. And here's one that happened for you. What do you remember from that experience? And what did you kind of take away, whatever you wanted to share about that? But I feel like those hard times are sometimes what make or break someone's career, and obviously on the really sad side is like, someone's life, like, dang, this is a hard thing for me. I forget it, What do you remember from that experience, and how'd you get through that, or what was your mindset?
I would say, it was a very defining moment. I feel like in my career, it was the first time in my life that like soccer had been temporarily like taken away from me. I had been very fortunate to be very healthy, like no injuries, nothing super serious, all the way up to my junior year. And I was coming off a really good sophomore year of, scoring a bunch of goals, feeling super comfortable and confident in, who I was as a player. And I had fractured my tibia in one of my games. And I was kind of like misdiagnosed, I think, because either I have a really high pain tolerance or the trainers just missed it. But I actually had to play 2 games on that fractured tibia, and it got so bad that I was like, I can't play, like it hurts so bad. So I was like, I think if I didn't play those 2 games, or if I would have stopped playing sooner, I could have maybe redshirted, but I was already too many games past the redshirt point. So I had to I was on crutches. I was non-weight bearing for 8 weeks. So I was on crutches for 8 weeks, which is really hard because I literally couldn't do anything to like get better or stay in shape. Like I could, I think after like 3 or 4 weeks, I could walk in the pool and do some like pool stuff, but it's really hard. Like it's just not the same. And so I kind of had to decide early on to like have a good attitude about it. And there was literally nothing I could do about my current situation physically. So I decided to just, cheer on my teammates, be as supportive as I could. But I also feel like sitting on the sideline, And actually like watching the game helped me a ton as well. I feel like I learned a lot just from watching. And it also like kind of fueled my fire because I was so eager to play soccer again whenever I got the chance. And
Mm,
I was like, I remember telling myself, like, I will never take running or doing, playing soccer, doing anything physical like for granted ever again, because
mm.
like now that it's taken away from me, I was like, I want to do it so bad. Like I remember watching my teammates run the fitness test. I was like, I'll do anything to run a fitness test right now. I
Whereas
was like,
before, that was probably something you dreaded and didn't like.
yeah, before it was like, oh my gosh, we have to run the beep test today or whatever it was. I was like, I'll run the beep test every day if I could cut my leg heal. So it's always something that I look back on anytime I go through like an injury or a little like speed bump. And I remember people would ask me like, once I was back, I pretty much missed my junior year of soccer. Like I think I played one game
Mm,
like
wow.
once I got, cleared. So I pretty much missed out on it. But people would ask me like, oh, do you wish that that never happened, or could you change what happened? And I say no every time, because I feel like I learned a lot, and I don't think I would have learned those lessons so early on if I hadn't, gone through that.
Yeah, and I can only imagine since then there's probably been other challenges, or I don't know if you've had other injuries, but other things like that where you've probably been like, you know what, this has happened before. I just have to trust that there's something I need to learn here, or that it's supposed to be this way, or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
That's really cool. Really cool. Um, okay, so now I just want to read off just a couple of things for those who may not know kind of all the stuff that you've done, at least just at BYU. Um, you were given several really kind of cool awards during that time. One of them I think was the Rookie of the Year, if I remember right, or Freshman of the Year. You set your 15 shot sophomore year, one match set a new school record. Your 18 goals tied for the fifth highest in the program's history. You were named Player of the Week by ESPNW and was named WCC Co-Player of the Year. You earned all WCC First Team and NSC AA All West Region First Team honors. Woo! And I'd like to see that certificate you got. I don't know if all those words came out. Um, you know, and then of course, the most prestigious or coolest thing that you got is senior year, or towards the end of your senior year. Once you, I think, senior year, you got the second pick in professional women's soccer, at least from North Carolina Courage.
Yes.
Take us back to, because not all college players go pro, right? You
Okay.
probably have some friends from BYU that maybe never made it. When did you know that you were going to be on a professional team, or that could be something that could be in your future?
Um, I mean, I feel like throughout my career at BYU, like each year that went by, it became a little bit more and more realistic. But I like whenever people would ask me about it or talk to me about it, I kind of dismissed it or like pushed it to the side because I wanted to focus on like where I was at that moment. I
Yeah.
knew that I would only have 4 years at BYU, and I knew that the time would pass and I didn't want to waste that time thinking about the future. So I wanted to stay present. And I also knew that playing professionally wouldn't be in my future if I didn't focus on my present. So I kind of, that was like my mindset whenever people talk to me about it. I think a big turning point for me, my senior year, I got invited to my first ever US Women's National Team camp.
Mm,
And I played in I got my first cap against Switzerland in Utah. I played in
mm,
Utah with the US Women's National Team. And
mm,
that was like a huge eye opener for me. And at the time, Jill Ellis was the head coach of the US Women's National Team at the time. And before that, I had not really had a ton of experience with US soccer. So I learned a lot. And it was the first time I ever played against other professional soccer players.
Mm,
So I didn't really know like how my college skills, would match up to these pros, these like Olympic, gold medalists and World Cup champions, So I
crazy.
was super nervous, but also just like super excited for the opportunity. And I asked so many questions to all the other girls who are playing professionally about like, do you like playing in the NWSL? Like, what are the pros? What are the cons? Like, I just used that opportunity as a like to be a sponge and just suck in as much information as I could because I knew that if I decided to play professionally, I would have no idea what was in store for me. So I learned a lot, and I'm so glad that I asked those questions. And I remember my exit meeting with Jill Ellis. She was like, I wanted to call you into this camp to kind of like light a fire in you. And if you want to play on this team ever again, like you need to go play professionally and you need to succeed and you need to do well. And I was just like,
Wow.
yes, ma'am. All right. Like,
Ah.
so it was after that camp where I was like, yeah, I knew I was going to do it. I didn't tell people that I was going to because I still wanted to, focus on the rest of my senior year. But that camp was just like, yeah, I'm going to play professionally. And I'm like super excited. I know it's going to be super hard, but I'm going to do it. So that was kind of like that turning point for me.
Yeah, and what a cool way for someone to give you motivation to want to play professional women's soccer. To
Yeah.
invite you to play on that high ranking of a team must have been so cool. So, were you playing with players without going off too much of a tangent? Then we'll bring it back. So, Alex Morgan, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people like that were some of those. Was Carly Lloyd at the time on the team?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Marley Lloyd was there. Pretty much everyone that's currently on the team.
That is so cool. And then a follow up question I had, and then we'll bring it back because this is so exciting. What's one or a couple, whatever you want to share? What's some questions that you were asking them, and what advice were they giving you?
So I was asking them a lot of like questions and like how the league worked in general. And then I was also asking them like questions about like what's the difference in like the level of play, like from college to professionally,
Mm,
like what was the biggest adjustment for you? What is like the best part about playing professionally? What's the worst part? And so I got a lot of like different answers. I also like was able to gather some sort of expectation going into the league. And I'm
mm,
so glad that, and my expectation going into the league was like, we're a women's professional league. We don't get a ton of support. We don't get a ton of money, but it's so worth it.
mm,
So that was kind of my expectation. And it was also, it's going to be really hard because you don't know where you're going to go and you don't have a lot of power in where you're going to go. And so I had those expectations and they really helped me my first season at North Carolina. And I'm really glad that those girls were honest with me because they could have lied to me like, oh, it's great, but
yeah.
they were pretty honest. And so I was very grateful for their honesty.
That's really neat. That's really neat. And I feel like, to your point on some of those things that you said, they're really true. I feel like women's soccer is starting to make more of a name for itself more and more. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that could be even motivating for you too, to know like, oh, like I can have influence over, the world's perception on women's soccer, and how that goes too. And a lot of those girls
Definitely.
have definitely paved the way for that, to that end as well, which is really
Yeah,
neat to have been able to rub shoulders with them. Okay,
totally.
you were the second pick on North Carolina Courage. That is crazy. That must have been, again, another motivation booster for you, um, coming on now from college to the professional league when it comes to women's soccer. What did you take from your time on that team?
My rookie season, I learned a lot. I got drafted to the best team in the league at the time. They had previously won the championship. They were a team that was in New York, and their owner bought them out. An owner from North Carolina bought them. So it was like this team's first time in North Carolina. And they were at the time the best team in the league. I mean, they still are a really good team in the league. And I was among like some of the best soccer players in the world. So I remember like my first day of practice, I was just like, holy crap, these girls are good. Like, I better get better real quick. But yeah, I just soaked it all in, and I learned a lot like from the players around me, especially the veteran players around me. I think there's only me and like two other rookies on the team. And so we were blessed to have such great players around us who were willing to show us the ropes, to give us advice, to show us what it takes to be a pro and go from a 3-month college season to an 8-month plus professional season.
Mm,
And like how to manage your time and how to take care of your body. It was just, there's so many more aspects of the job when you become a professional that like no one really teaches you. You just kind of have to
yeah,
learn it.
yeah,
And so yeah, I learned a lot, and I feel like I got better as a player, not only like physically but also mentally. It was like very challenging, you know, the drills that Paul Riley would put us through, the passing patterns we would do, the different games we would play, the transition games, the I don't know, just the rigorous training sessions that we had were very trying, but I definitely feel like it helped me become a better player.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And you're right. You kind of stepping into. I bet that first practice, you start to realize like either I'm gonna get chewed or I'm gonna have to start chewing. Just like
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to stand up to these people or I'm gonna get sent home real quick. But you've definitely
Yeah.
risen to the challenge because now that was in 2017. It's now 2021, so you're alive. You made it.
Yeah.
And I know you were on Melbourne City for a little bit on loan,
Hmm.
and now you're back to now you're on Washington Spirit, which is a new team still for you.
Hmm.
Um, I know we only have about 5-10 more minutes, so just a couple more questions to wrap it up. And um, so we talked a little bit about Washington Spirit at the beginning. What are your current goals now in soccer and stuff? I know a lot of it you talked about being in the present, so perhaps you have no goals, or you do, but you don't think of them. Whatever your answer is, yeah. What is your future looking like, and what is your thought process with where you're at now?
Yeah, so I definitely have goals.
Okay,
Um,
good,
and
good, good.
no, but being in the present and making the most of every day is definitely one of them. So, yeah, I feel like every year a big goal of mine is always just to continue to move forward and progress and get better as a soccer player. And so there's certain things that, I'm trying to get better at. One of them is always scoring goals. I feel like you can never score too
Yeah.
many goals.
Yes.
But also helping my team, the Washington Spirit, make it to the playoffs,
Mm.
make it to the championship, win the championship, all those things. I feel like each year with the Spirit, we've made progress, but I feel like it's time for us to make a little bit more progress and, be a dominating team in the league,
Mm.
which is hard to do because this is a really good league. So that's definitely my goal. I also have a personal goal of, becoming my best self and trying to, make the U.S. Women's National Team, if that opportunity ever presents itself. I've had windows here and there, and so just being ready for whenever that door opens. If it opens, you never
Yeah.
know. So just being ready to take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves. So after the Olympics, I'm hoping to be ready to be in a position where I can help impact that team in some way. So those are kind of my goals at the moment.
That's awesome. That is very, very exciting. Exciting future for Ashley Hatch, man. Okay, that's where I wanted to go with that portion. So we got what's going on, journey to where you are now. Can we end with some questions from the fans?
Of course.
Okay, Ashley Hatch, man, this is what it's all about. Okay, another question from the fans is this is from Spencer Smith. The previous one was from Sally Johnson. So Spencer Smith is asking, have you ever had your values challenged as a professional soccer player? If so, how did you respond?
That's a good question. I don't know if I would ever say my values have been challenged by, I mean, maybe they have. I guess like I found myself in situations where I could choose to stay true to my values or to stray away. And I feel like um, coming into the league, my rookie season, it was very important for me to establish, my standards and stay true to my standards from the beginning. And I think it would have been really easy to not do that because no one knew who I was. No one knew what I believed or anything about my character or whatever it was. So it could have been easy to, stray from that, especially being in a new environment. But fortunately for me, I've had a lot of good role models in my life and I have a really good family. And I was able to, if there was a certain activity going on or if we had a team function and people were drinking, I don't drink. It was easy for me to establish that from the get-go, stay true to myself and be like, hey, like I love being here with you guys, but I'm not gonna drink or like certain like little things like that, that have, tested me a little bit. But because I've decided to stay true to who I am, and that's kind of always been my number one priority when it comes to certain situations like that, just being open and honest with people and like, this is who I am, this is what I believe, these things about me will never change. I've earned a lot of respect from a lot of my teammates, and they've also helped me uphold my own standards because they see that I'm doing my best to stay true to who I am. So I'm happy that I chose from the beginning to stay true to myself because it would have been really hard to, backpedal. But luckily enough, I'm surrounded by a lot of amazing players and women who know my standards and who've helped me and respect me, even if their standards are different, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and I think people do respect that when you're just open and honest about it. And also, I believe that a lot of the girls you probably play with, I feel like most people and humans have, they're good people also. They have values too that I'm sure that you help with as well, and you guys kind of help each other as a team when it comes to that. That's
Totally.
awesome. I respect that. That's really cool. Another question that he had was, what is your favorite moment from your career?
Um, that's hard. There's so many good moments.
Besides getting married to Jeff, okay? Just kidding.
Yeah. Man, that's so hard. I mean, one moment that's like at the top of my list is like getting my first ever cap with the national team and like when I stepped onto the field, like
Yeah.
I it was at Real Salt Lake Stadium, Real Salt Lake Stadium at Rio Tinto. And I had all my college teammates there, I had my family there, I had friends there. It was just kind of like a surreal, like
Yeah.
picture perfect experience. And so that's definitely at the top of my list. But yeah, I don't know, I could list a lot. But
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That is a definite highlight. You said picture perfect. That is picture perfect.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Ashley Hatch, thank you very much for doing this interview. I know it will help a lot of people that take the time to listen to it. This has been really enlightening for me as well. And so thank you for being willing, and good luck. Best of luck moving forward. We'll see you on the women's national team, and we'll see you achieve every other goal that you're wanting to as well. So thank you
Thanks.
again.
I appreciate it, of course.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you.
Bye.